I stood in the kitchen, my hands gripping the edge of the counter so tightly that my knuckles turned white. The air felt thick, like it was being sucked out of the room, and I struggled to breathe. Victoria sat at the table, sipping her tea as if nothing was wrong. Her voice was calm and steady, but her words hit me like a freight train. "It's just family at Noah's graduation," she said, not even bothering to look up from her cup. "It's less awkward if you don't come." Less awkward for whom? I wanted to scream, to flip the table and demand an explanation. But my throat tightened, and all I could do was stare at her in disbelief. Noah walked in, his backpack slung over one shoulder, and nodded as if this was no big deal. "Yeah, Dad, it's just a ceremony. Don't take it personally." Don't take it personally. How could I not? I'd been there for every scraped knee, every late-night homework session, every game where I screamed my lungs out from the bleachers. I paid for that degree he was about to wave around, and now I wasn't even worth a seat in the back. The words hit me like a physical blow, but I didn't let them see it. I'd always been good at swallowing the hurt, keeping the peace, being the steady one. Victoria kept sipping her tea, her eyes now glued to her phone, probably texting her sister Mara about some nonsense. Noah grabbed an apple and headed for the door, muttering something about meeting his girlfriend. And me. I just stood there, the counter cold under my palms, feeling like a ghost in my own house. I'd spent 20 years building this family, pouring everything I had into it, and now they were telling me I didn't belong at one of the biggest moments of my son's life. It wasn't just the graduation, it was the message behind it. I wasn't needed. I wasn't wanted. I didn't argue, I couldn't. My chest felt tight, like someone had wrapped a chain around it and yanked hard. But I kept my face blank, my voice low and steady, as if I was agreeing to skip a movie night, not being cut out of my own son's milestone. "Okay," I said, the word tasting like bile in my mouth. Victoria didn't even glance up, and Noah was already halfway out the door. That was it. The decision was made, and I wasn't part of it. I let go of the counter, my hands shaking slightly, and walked upstairs to our bedroom. The house was quiet, too quiet, and every step felt heavier than the last. I pulled my old duffel bag from the closet, the one I used to take on fishing trips with my brother Lucas back when life was simpler. I started packing, socks, shirts, a pair of shorts, moving on autopilot, not even sure where I was going yet. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the bag, and that's when it hit me. I didn't have to stay here. I didn't have to sit in this house, waiting for them to realize what they'd just done to me. I grabbed my laptop, opened a travel site, and scrolled through destinations. Santorini popped up, white buildings, blue roofs, endless sea. It looked like the opposite of this suffocating kitchen. I booked the ticket right then, one way, leaving the next day. My phone buzzed, probably Ellie from work asking about some report, but I ignored it. I didn't tell Victoria, I didn't tell Noah. I just zipped the bag shut and stood there, breathing hard, feeling a strange mix of anger and relief wash over me. The next morning, I was gone before they woke up. No note, no goodbye, just the sound of my truck pulling out of the driveway. I drove to the airport, my hands tied to the wheel, replaying their words in my head. Less awkward. Don't take it personally. By the time I boarded the plane, I wasn't just leaving the city, I was leaving them behind, at least for a while. I settled into my seat, the hum of the engines drowning out the noise in my mind, and stared out the window as the ground fell away. For the first time in years, I wasn't thinking about what they needed, I was thinking about me. Santorini was waiting, and I didn't owe anyone an explanation, not anymore. As the plane climbed higher, I felt the weight start to lift, just a little. I didn't know what I'd find when I landed, but I knew one thing, I wasn't going to let them make me feel small again. I'd given them everything, every paycheck, every late night, every quiet moment I let slide when they forgot to say thanks. And this was how they repaid me. I leaned back in my seat, closing my eyes, picturing the sea ahead. They could have their graduation, their family-only day. I'd find my own peace, my own place, even if it was halfway across the world. The plane leveled off, and I let out a long breath. This wasn't running away, this was choosing myself. And damn it, it felt good, even if it hurt like hell at the same time. I stepped off the plane in Santorini, the warm air hitting me like a soft wave, carrying the faint smell of salt and sun-baked stone. My duffel bag hung heavy on my shoulder as I made my way through the tiny airport, dodging tourists with their loud voices and bright shirts. I didn't care about the noise, not yet. All I wanted was to get to the villa I'd booked, drop my stuff, and figure out how to breathe again. The taxi ride was quiet, the driver humming some tune I didn't recognize as we wound up narrow roads past white buildings stacked like sugar cubes against the cliffs. I stared out the window, watching the sea shimmer in the distance. For the first time in days, my chest didn't feel like it was caving in. The villa was better than the pictures, small, simple, with a stone patio that hung over the edge of the hill. The sea stretched out below, endless and blue, sparkling under the afternoon sun. I dropped my bag inside, kicked off my shoes, and stepped out onto the patio barefoot. The tiles were warm under my feet, and I stood there for a minute, just listening. No voices telling me I wasn't needed, no casual shrugs cutting me out, just the wind and the waves, steady and indifferent. I grabbed a beer from the little fridge the owner had stocked, popped it open, and sank into a wooden chair. My feet went up on the railing, the cold bottle sweating in my hand, and I let out a long, slow breath. This was it, this was mine. I pulled out my phone, not to check for messages but to take a picture, the sea, my feet, the beer. Simple. I posted it online with a caption, "Silence looks good on me." No explanation, no tags, just that. Within minutes my brother Lucas chimed in. His comment popped up, "Looking like a king, bro, where you at?" I smirked, imagining his grin back home, probably sprawled on his couch with a soda in hand. Then Ellie texted, not a comment but a private message. "Wait, weren't you supposed to be at Noah's graduation?" I read it, my thumb hovering over the screen, but I didn't reply. What was I supposed to say? That my own family didn't want me there? That I'd rather be here alone than begging for a spot at their table? I set the phone down and took a swig of beer instead. The cold fizz was sharp on my tongue. Victoria hadn't called. Noah hadn't texted. Nothing. I wasn't surprised, but it still stung like a paper cut you don't notice until it starts to burn. I'd always been the one to reach out first, to fix things, to smooth over the rough edges. Not this time. I leaned back in the chair, the sun warm on my face, and closed my eyes. The sound of the waves rolled in, steady and slow, washing away the echo of their voices. Less awkward. Don't take it personally. Out here, those words didn't reach me. Out here, I didn't have to be the guy who took it all in stride. I could just be. The rest of the day slipped by easy. I unpacked my bag, tossing clothes into a drawer, then wandered down to the little market nearby. The guy behind the counter nodded at me, friendly but not nosy, and I grabbed some bread, cheese, and a bottle of wine for later. Back at the villa, I sat on the patio again, tearing off chunks of bread and watching the sun dip lower, painting the sky orange and pink. My phone stayed quiet, no buzz, no guilt trips, no demands. I didn't check it, I didn't need to. For once, I wasn't waiting for them to decide I mattered. I mattered right here, right now, with the sea in front of me and the wind tugging at my shirt. Night came soft and slow, the stars popping out one by one. I poured a glass of wine, the red catching the glow of the little lantern I'd lit on the table. I thought about home for a minute, about Noah in his cap and gown, Victoria fussing over her hair, Mara probably taking a million pictures. I wondered if they'd even noticed I wasn't there, or if they just carried on like always, filling the space I used to take up. The thought twisted in my gut, but I pushed it down with another sip of wine. They didn't get to ruin this, not this view, not this quiet, not this moment I'd carved out for myself. I stretched out in the chair, the wine warming me from the inside, and let my mind drift. Lucas would get it. He'd always been the one to tell me I gave too much, took too little. Ellie would worry, but she'd understand once I told her. And Victoria and Noah. They could wait. They'd made their choice, and now I was making mine. The sea kept whispering below, and I listened, letting it pull me into the kind of peace I hadn't felt in years. This wasn't just a trip, this was me taking back something they'd taken for granted me. And damn if it didn't feel right, sitting there under the stars with nothing but silence to keep me company. The plane touched down with a jolt, pulling me back to reality. The cool air of the city hit me as I stepped out of the airport, a stark contrast to the warmth of Santorini. I felt a pang of loss, already missing the tranquility of the island. But I was back, and I had to face what I'd left behind. I made my way to the parking lot, the hum of people and rolling suitcases feeling louder than I remembered. The city lights blurred past as I drove home, the familiar route now feeling foreign. The engine of my truck rumbled to life, and I pulled out, the cityscape blurring into a mix of memories and uncertainty. The house came into view after 20 minutes, dark and quiet, no lights in the windows. I parked in the driveway, the crunch of gravel under the tires echoing in the stillness. Grabbing my bag, I walked up the steps, the key cold in my hand. The door creaked open, and I stepped inside, flipping the switch. The living room glowed softly under the bulb, same couch, same TV, but it felt different, emptier. Victoria's stuff was gone. Her throw pillows, that ugly vase she loved, the shoes always piled by the door, all missing. No note, no mess, just silence. I stood there, letting it sink in, and realized it didn't hit me like I thought it would. It felt clean, like the air after a storm. She'd left, and I was okay with it. I dropped my bag by the stairs and walked through the house, checking rooms out of habit. The kitchen was bare, no dishes in the sink, no tea bags on the counter. The fridge was nearly empty, save for a few condiments and a lone beer. I cracked it open, the fizz loud in the quiet, and took a sip, the cold liquid grounding me. Noah's room was the same, bed unmade, but his backpack and clothes were missing. He hadn't been here either, probably still crashing at a friend's place. I didn't feel the urge to call him, to check. He'd heard my message, and the ball was in his court now. I went back downstairs and sat on the couch, staring at the blank TV. My suit for the graduation was still hanging in the closet. I bought it months ago, black and crisp, thinking I'd stand proud when Noah walked the stage. I didn't need it now. I got up, pulled it out, and ran my hand over the fabric. It felt heavy, like a promise I'd made to myself that they'd broken. I didn't want it sitting there, a reminder of what didn't happen. I folded it into a box, added the tie, and set it by the door. Donation, maybe, or trash. Either way, it wasn't mine anymore. The next morning I woke up slow, the house still quiet, the sun filtering through the blinds. I made coffee, strong and black, and drank it at the kitchen table, feeling the space around me. It wasn't lonely, not yet, just different. I pulled out my phone, powered it on for the first time since Santorini, and watched the notifications roll in. Texts from Ellie asking if I was back, a couple from Lucas checking in, nothing from Victoria, nothing from Noah. I texted Ellie I was home, told Lucas I'd call later, and left it at that. I didn't dig through the old stuff, didn't listen to voicemails. I was done chasing their voices. I needed something to do, something mine. So I looked up a hiking club online, local weekends, nothing fancy. I signed up, no hesitation, picturing trails and fresh air, a way to keep moving. Back in Santorini, I'd felt alive on those cliffs, and I wanted that here too. I spent the day cleaning, wiping counters, tossing old junk, making the house feel less like theirs and more like mine. By evening, I was tired, my hands gritty. But it felt good, like I was carving out a space I'd lost somewhere along the way. That night, I cooked dinner steak, simple, seared in a pan with salt and pepper. I lit a candle, one Victoria had left behind, and set it on the table. The flame flickered soft, and I ate alone, the steak hot and juicy, the beer cold in my hand. And I didn't mind the quiet. It wasn't empty, it was full of me. As I sat there, I thought about the future. Noah might call, might show up with that look in his eyes, ready to talk like I'd asked. I'd listen if he did, but I wouldn't beg for it. Victoria might come back, might not. I didn't care either way. She'd made her choice, and I'd made mine. I wasn't waiting anymore, wasn't holding my breath for them to see me. Santorini had shown me I didn't need to. I'd been the backdrop too long, fading into their story. But now, I was the whole damn thing, front and center, no apologies. I blew out the candle, the smoke curling up, and headed to bed, the stairs creaking under my feet. The man who'd left this house a week ago was gone, angry, invisible, waiting. The man who came back was different, steadier, sure, alive. I climbed into bed, the sheets cool, and closed my eyes, the quiet wrapping around me. But the silence wasn't deafening, it was comforting. It gave me space to think, to reflect on the journey that had brought me here. I thought about the hikes I'd taken in Santorini, the conversations with Sabine, the moments of solitude that had allowed me to see myself clearly for the first time in years. As I lay there, I realized that this journey wasn't just about escaping the chaos of my family life. It was about rediscovering who I was, what I wanted, and what I deserved. It was about finding the strength to stand up for myself, to set boundaries, and to choose myself, even when it was hard. The days that followed were filled with a mix of emotions. There were moments of doubt, of questioning whether I'd made the right decision. But there were also moments of clarity, of knowing that I was on the right path. I found solace in the simplicity of my new routine, hiking on the weekends, cooking for myself, enjoying the quiet of my home. I thought about Noah often, wondering how he was doing, if he was okay. But I knew that I couldn't force a relationship, couldn't make him see things from my perspective. He had to come to me on his own terms, when he was ready, and until then I would focus on myself, on my own healing and growth. The house began to feel more like mine with each passing day. I rearranged the furniture, hung up new art, and filled the space with things that brought me joy. I found comfort in the familiarity of my surroundings, but also in the knowledge that I was creating something new, something that was truly mine. As the days turned into weeks, I found myself looking forward to the future with a sense of hope and excitement. I knew that there would be challenges ahead, that there would be moments of doubt and uncertainty. But I also knew that I was strong enough to face them, that I had the resilience and the determination to overcome whatever obstacles came my way. And so, I continued on my journey, one step at a time, one day at a time. I chose myself, I chose my happiness, and I chose to live my life on my own terms. And in doing so, I found a sense of peace and fulfillment that I had never known before. The journey was far from over, but I was ready to face whatever came next, with courage, with strength, and with an unwavering belief in myself. The sun was just beginning to rise as I laced up my hiking boots and stepped out of the house. The air was crisp, the world quiet, and I felt a sense of anticipation for the day ahead. I'd planned a solo hiking trip, eager to explore new trails and challenge myself in ways I hadn't before. The journey to the trailhead was filled with a mix of excitement and reflection as I thought about the path that had led me here. As I began my hike, the trail was steep, winding through dense forests and over rocky terrain. Each step was a testament to my newfound strength and resilience. The sound of birdsong filled the air, and the scent of pine needles and earth surrounded me. I was exactly where I was meant to be, embracing the solitude and the challenge. The higher I climbed, the more I felt a sense of clarity and purpose. The view from the summit was breathtaking. Endless mountains and valleys stretched out before me, the sun casting a warm glow over the landscape. I sat down on a rock, taking a sip of water and a deep breath, feeling a sense of accomplishment and pride. This was what I'd been searching for, this feeling of freedom, of possibility. As I made my way back down the trail, I ran into an old friend, Emma. We'd known each other for years, but had lost touch amidst the chaos of life. She was hiking with her dog, Max, who bounded over to me, tail wagging. Emma's smile was genuine, and her energy infectious. We caught up, sharing stories and laughter, and I was reminded of the person I used to be, carefree and adventurous, always up for a challenge. "You know," Emma said, as we walked together, "I've been thinking about starting a business, something outdoorsy, like a hiking tour company. Would you be interested in partnering up?" The idea was exciting, and I found myself nodding eagerly. "I'd love that," I said, feeling a sense of excitement and optimism for the future. This was the fresh start I'd been searching for, a chance to build something new, something that was truly mine. Emma and I exchanged numbers, promising to meet up soon to discuss our plans further. A few days later, I received a letter from Noah. His words were heartfelt and sincere, expressing his deep regret and longing for a relationship with me. He wrote about the struggles he'd faced, the mistakes he'd made, and his desire to make things right. I was moved by his words, but I knew that I couldn't rush the healing process. I wrote him a heartfelt response, expressing my love for him but also my need for space and time. I made it clear that I was open to rebuilding our relationship, but on my own terms. As the days turned into weeks, I found myself looking forward to the future with a sense of hope and excitement. I knew that there would be challenges ahead, that there would be moments of doubt and uncertainty, but I also knew that I was strong enough to face them, that I had the resilience and the determination to overcome whatever obstacles came my way. I attended a family reunion, where I saw Victoria and Noah for the first time since my return. The encounter was tense but civil, with each of us acknowledging the pain and growth that had occurred. Victoria looked different. There was a softness in her eyes that I hadn't seen in years. She apologized for her part in the breakdown of our family, and I accepted her apology with grace. Noah, too, seemed more mature, more aware of the impact of his actions. We talked, really talked, for the first time in a long time, and I felt a sense of closure, knowing that I had done all I could to mend the broken dynamics. The open-ended conclusion of my journey was a reflection of the personal growth and self-awareness I'd gained. I stood on a cliff, overlooking the vast expanse of nature, feeling a sense of peace and contentment. I knew that I had a long road ahead, but I was ready to face it with newfound strength and clarity. The journey had been far from easy, but it had been worth it. I'd found my true self, and I was ready to embrace the future with open arms. The ending was not a neatly tied bow, but rather an invitation for reflection and growth. It was a reminder that life is a journey, full of ups and downs, challenges and triumphs. And through it all, I had found the strength to choose myself, to set boundaries, and to live my life on my own terms. As I stood there, the wind rustling the leaves around me, I felt a profound sense of gratitude for the journey, for the challenges, and for the growth. I was no longer the man who had left this house a few weeks ago. I was someone new, someone stronger, someone who knew his worth. And with that knowledge, I was ready to face whatever came next, with courage, with strength, and with an unwavering belief in myself. I began to explore new hobbies and interests, rediscovering my love for photography and writing. I started a blog, documenting my hiking adventures and sharing my thoughts on life, love, and personal growth. The response was overwhelmingly positive, and I found a community of like-minded individuals who shared my passion for the outdoors and self-discovery. I also began volunteering at a local community center, teaching photography classes to underprivileged youth. The experience was humbling and rewarding, and I found a sense of purpose in giving back to my community. I saw the impact I could have on the lives of others, and it filled me with a sense of fulfillment and joy. As the seasons changed, so did I. I embraced the autumn chill, the winter snow, and the spring thaw, each one a reminder of the cycles of life and the beauty of change. I found solace in the simplicity of nature, in the quiet moments of reflection, and in the connections I formed with others. And so, I continued on my journey, one step at a time, one day at a time. I chose myself, I chose my happiness, and I chose to live my life on my own terms. And in doing so, I found a sense of peace and fulfillment that I had never known before. The journey was far from over, but I was ready to face whatever came next, with courage, with strength, and with an unwavering belief in myself.